Now that we know that Copilot for Microsoft 365 is good in constructing simple formulas like sum and average, and more advanced formulas such as index match and VLOOKUP, let's take the next step to see how it is in performing string manipulation type formulas. So here is a use case. We have some data that we got, let's say, from our manager, but unfortunately, it comes from a different system or a legacy system. So we need to do some manipulations to it in order to put it into our system. Now, the first thing is the customer name that you see in the column A. All right. And we need to split this in first name and last name over here in ENF. Now, the next one is date joint, and it is in month, day, and year format. And maybe let's say we want to change it into year, month, and date format if you're working in United States. All right. So additionally, we want to make sure that column G over here is date and not text type, which it currently is. And let's make it a little more complex. All right. So let's say for each of the date joined over here, our system only accepts if it is a Sunday date. All right. So we need to take the date joint and basically round it to the nearest Sunday before the person actually joined. And finally, we have the email column. And what we need to do is we need to take the email and extract the domain portion of it, of this email in this particular column. So for example, if it is john.smith@example.com, we just want example.com or gmail.com or yahoo.com, all right, so on and so forth. Now, obviously, this use case involves a lot of different things and may require research if I'm not an expert in Excel. And this could be annoying as well. So let's get Copilot for Microsoft 365 to do it instead. All right. So the first thing that we need to do is to provide a context. So let's just go ahead and provide a context. All right. So over here, we are going to specify the context. Well, what I say is you are an Excel formula advisor. In an Excel sheet, we have columns, customer name, date joined, and email, which is customer name, date joined, and email. And we also specify that the customer name contains the first name and the last name, and the date joined is in month, day, and year format in our source columns. Okay. Now, once we have provided the context, we need to give the specifics of what is expected out of Copilot for Microsoft 365. All right. So let's go ahead and do that as well. Create a formula that extracts the first name from the customer name. The customer name can be found in A2. All right. So this is what I'm asking for. So let's just go ahead and click on send. All right. So we got the formula over here in seconds. And not only that, we also got the explanation of how this formula is being used. All right. So we can copy this particular formula over here and test it out in our Excel file. So let's just go ahead and provide the formula. And there you go. So you have the first name from John Smith over here. All right. So let's just go ahead and do the same thing for the last name as well. All right. So let's go to our Copilot and then just say, well, do the same thing for the last name. So remember, we have already given the context and the system already knows what we had done in the previous step, right? So I do not have to provide a detailed prompt over here. All I say is, okay, do the same thing for the last name. So I click on send. And there you go, you get the formula over here. So let's just copy this and test it in our Excel file. So let's just go over here and click on enter, and you will see that the last name from John Smith is copied in this particular cell. So the formula works, right? Now let's go to another example, which is a little complex, wherein we take this particular date and we place it in column G, but the format has to be year, month, and day. All right, let's provide a prompt over here and say thanks for the previous step. Now create a formula that gives me the date in year, month, and day format from the date joined column, which can be found in cell B2. All right, so let's just go ahead and see what happens. All right, so Microsoft Copilot over here has suggested us a text function, which in this case might not work or is not correct for us because the first argument, the B2, what it's expecting it to be in an Excel date format, which is not the case in this particular use case, right? So what we need to do is we need to push Microsoft Copilot in the right direction so that we get the right formula. So what we can say is, all right, Well, that did not work. The date joined is not in Excel date format. Please use left and right functions instead in your formula. Okay, so if we click on enter, let's see what is the next suggestion. All right, so now you can see that there is a different way or different approach that the Copilot has suggested. Let's try to use this particular formula instead. Okay, so let's just go ahead and use this format and click on enter, and then you can see we have got the result that we needed. All right. So basically, sometimes you need to keep pushing Copilot Microsoft 365 because it may not know all the scenarios, right? So you need to keep pushing to get the right result as well. All right, now we have a little more complex part where we need the Sunday date before the date joining. All right, so let's just go back to our Copilot for Microsoft 365 again and try to write this particular prompt. Perfect. I put that into cell G2. So actually, I'm providing the detail that the result that you gave me in the last step, I pasted that in G2. Now the system would know that I want that for the next cell. Okay. So I put that in the cell G2. Now create a formula for me that takes the date in cell G2 and gets me the Sunday date right before the date in the cell G2. All right. So it's like you are having a conversation with Copilot for Microsoft 365. All right. All right. So it gives us a particular result over here. And let's just see if that works. So if I go over here and paste this formula right here. All right, so it gives me a date over here. However, it's also not in the format that we would like. So let's just go ahead and make some changes. So let's just say make that into format, right? Let's just copy this and basically get this. All right. So we have got our date over here, but let's just check if this is correct or not. All right. So we have 15th of February 2005. So is this a Sunday date? Okay. All right. So the date joined is 15th of February. And the result that we have got in Sunday before they joined is 14th, which is not correct. Okay. It's actually a Monday, not a Sunday. So basically, Copilot for Microsoft 365 has not given us the right result. So we again need to push Copilot to actually give us the right result. Okay, so the answer should be 13th of February 2005. Okay, so let's just go ahead and change the prompt a little bit. So let's just say that gives me Monday. I need a Sunday date. All right. Okay, so let's just use this formula again and paste our formula and then click on enter, and then we have got the right answer, which is 13th of February, which is the Sunday before the date joined over here. Now last but not the least, we have to work our last column, that is the email domain. That means from this particular column we just have to extract the domain part. All right, so if we provide a prompt over here, it's a little different. And we say, thanks, finally create a formula that extracts the email domain from an email in the email column, which is in C2. And here I also provide an example so that Copilot can have a reference point. So what I say is, for example, if email column contains jane.doe@gmail.com, I want the word gmail.com. So I'm giving a specifics of what is expected. All right. So let's just go ahead and click on send. So over here, we have our formula. Let's just copy this and test it out. So we can go over here and paste that formula here and click on enter. And there we go. We have our desired result. And all we need to do is just drag this till the last row and we have our answer, right? So we basically have done some complex string manipulation without having to write any sort of code ourselves. But sometimes you need to give Copilot for Microsoft 365 the right push because it's not going to be correct results every single time. So you need to do your own due diligence. But oftentimes, if there is a mistake, it usually takes one or two iterations to get the right answers. I hope you like this video. Why don't you go ahead and try it out for yourself? We will meet you in next video. Bye for now.